You didn't trust people, you trusted performances. You didn't fall for their truth, you fell for their delivery, their timing, their tone, the way they mirrored your wounds back to you and made it feel like chemistry. But it wasn't truth you felt, it was recognition of a pattern you weren't yet ready to name. They didn't lie with their words, they lied with their warmth, with glances that made you feel seen, with comfort that arrived quickly, with promises that sounded like rescue. You called it connection, but it was compliance. They didn't show you who they were, they showed you who they needed to be to get your loyalty. And that version was rehearsed. Not all masks are worn to deceive, some are worn to survive, but some are worn to control. They showed up emotionally fluent, but emotionally unavailable. They knew how to say "I understand," but never made space for your truth. They knew how to touch your soul without ever touching their own. You weren't loved, you were studied. This is what makes it hard to let go. You weren't just grieving a person, you were grieving a performance, a fantasy, a role so carefully played it made your nervous system confuse charisma with care, intensity with safety. You didn't love them blindly, you loved the story they told you about who they might be someday. You weren't naive, you were hopeful. You weren't stupid, you were generous. You weren't blind, you were trusting of a version of them that never truly existed. You didn't ignore the red flags, you just mistook the spotlight for love. The show was bright, the audience was loud, and you didn't want to be the only one who didn't clap. Why do you still miss them? Because performance creates addiction. Their withdrawal